Hello, Mike and Moose here. We've all been there, spending hours on a build only to ruin it in the last step. Today, I'm going to tell you some of the biggest blunders that budget modelers make and how to avoid them so your build looks like $1,000,000 without spending it. Next on Modeling with Mike. Hello and welcome back. And before we start with our top mistakes and blunders, I just want to take some time, let you know who this video is for. This is basically aimed at the beginning budget modeler, but as always, us experienced modelers can always use a reminder every now and then. So with that in mind, here we go with our top 10 blunders and mistakes that budget modelers make. Number 1, rushing the build. Everybody, especially beginners, like to rush a build and just get it all built, and they're expecting a perfect looking kit. And if you rush the build, you're probably going to get poorly fitted parts. And as I've said before, if you have one part that's fitting, that is poorly fit, it'll just throw off the next part that connects to it, and the next part after that, and the next part after that, and it snowballs. So, how do we avoid this? The fix. Make sure you dry fit everything first. It costs nothing, and believe you me, it does save time, much time later. Second mistake is skipping surface prep. A lot of times, especially with older tooling, these kits will come with oils and release agents still on them. If you have oil and release agents on your plastic, you must get rid of it before you even start building. If you don't have those oils and release agents on there, I don't worry about it. The fix to all these: a quick soap rinse or alcohol wipe. Saves paint because you're not stripping paint off and repainting, and it has zero extra cost because you're using stuff you already have. The third mistake that budget modelers make, and I see this a lot, and we've all been there when we started, and that's too much glue or paint. Too much glue. If you have too much glue, you put, like say you have 2 halves to a fuselage. If you just slop the glue on and you clamp those 2 halves together, that glue's gonna rise and form a nice ugly ridge right down the seam. And the same happens with paint. If you have a demarcation line between colors and you have it masked off, if you put too much paint, if you slop your paint on, it might just run down and settle along the edge of that tape and form a raised line in that demarcation line where it did settle against the edge of that tape. So, what's the fix? Well, of course, less is more in this case. Thin layers win every time. Use less paint. Use less glue. You only need to use as much glue is needed to cement the parts together. And don't slap the paint on. Several thin coats is better than one thick one. Number 4, ignoring seams and gaps. If you have a visible seam line, nothing is uglier than a visible seam line, or worse yet, a big old gap in the middle of two parts. What's the fix for that? You have to use some kind of putty or sprue glue or some filler in that seam, and then when it hardens, sand it down. Take the time to do that. Or if it's a raised seam line, if you don't have any gaps, you can either use a hobby knife and scrape that seam line down, or you can use a sanding stick or sandpaper and sand that seam line down. And then if that shows a gap afterwards, use your filler. If you want to go the budget route, use homemade sanding sticks, use homemade fillers. I have videos on both of those, and I will leave a link to both those videos in the video description. Next mistake is bad decal application. What causes this? Well, number 1, you could have poor decals in the first place. If you have good decals, they look nice and clean, and they're thick enough, not too thin, not too thick, they're just right. Then you're either not using room temperature water at least, or you're not soaking it long enough. Make sure you have room temperature water, make sure you're soaking it long enough to where it moves freely along the backing paper. Make sure you have a nice even coat of clear varnish on there, because if you just put it on uneven paint or uneven anything, it's gonna have silvering. Silvering is where the decal raises, allows light to show underneath the decal, and it looks like a bunch of silver in the decal. So what's the fix? Use either setting solutions, do what I've told you just now, make sure you have the water right, make sure you soak it long enough, make sure you put it on clear varnish, not just on plain old paint. And if you want to save money, do it the budget way, use DIY decal setting solutions. Vinegar and water can work wonders, and I have another video on that I'll leave the link for in the description. The next mistake is not letting paint fully cure. This could lead to fingerprints on the paint, on the finish of it. It could lead to paint peeling. Now sure, there are times when you want your paint not to be fully cured, and like chipping, for instance, but those are few and far between. You always want your paint to be fully cured. Give it at least overnight for it to dry. The fix, like I just said, use patience with it. Patience is free, folks. Let your layers of paint dry at least overnight, more preferably 24 hours before you do anything to it. The next mistake is skipping primer. We all know what primer is for. Primers does 2 major things. Number 1, it shows all the flaws that you need to take care of on your model before you paint. And number 2, it allows for better paint adhesion. So you need a good layer of primer or at least an undercoat. And if you don't have that, you get uneven paint coverage. The fix, of course, is to always prime. Always prime your models. Or, as I said before, at least use an undercoat. I mean, even dollar store primer improves paint adhesion. So moving on, the next mistake is neglecting weathering basics. If you don't weather properly or don't have proper basics, your finish will be flat and toy-like. We don't want toy-like finish, we want a realistic finish. How do we fix this? You use pencil lead or makeup. You do proper weathering techniques. Pencil lead or makeup is what I use. It's a budget way to do it. There are higher end weathering products out there. There's weathering powders. There's expensive oils. Really, you just need to use proper weathering techniques. Take your time and be patient and do it right, and you'll have no problem. The next problem or mistake that we see is comparing your work to expensive builds. A lot of times, especially if you're beginning, you'll look at somebody's work on Facebook and you'll say, why is my model not like that? Well, two reasons why your model's not like that. Number one, you haven't developed the skills yet to make it like that picture on Facebook. Number two, you haven't developed the experience to make your model look like that model on Facebook. And let me add a number three, you might not have the budget that that modeler on Facebook has. But that's not the main one. The first two are the main ones. The budget, you can use lower budget items and still make it look good. So what's the fix? You gotta shift your focus. You gotta focus on progress, not perfection. More often than not, skill beats a large budget. I've seen people with a large budget and don't have much skill. Their models still look like crap. You could spend $100 on a kit. Somebody else spends $25, $30, and that $25, $30 kit looks like a $100 kit. And your $100 kit looks like garbage. So, like I said, focus on progress, not perfection. And the last one, number 10, and it's a big one, not learning from our mistakes. It's like the old saying that has to do with history. Those that don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Those of us who don't learn from our mistakes are doomed to repeat them. Straightforward. So what's the fix? Got to remember that every model you build teaches you something. It teaches you something about the history of that piece you're doing. Teaches you about the time in history that piece was active, if it's a plane or a tank or a AFE or a ship. It always teaches you something. It teaches you a new technique. So don't throw a bad build away. You study it, you learn from it. You put it on a stand and you set it in your collection with everything else. So you can look at it and say, hey, this looks like crap. Well, yeah, okay, why? Well, you look at it and say, well, I should have done this, should have done this, should have done this. And you have it as something you can constantly go back on and learn from your mistakes. Okay, so What does this all tell us? To put a bow on everything. To advance in scale modeling, the way to do it is to use what I call the 3 P's. And that's patience, prep, and practice. Without those 3, you are not going to get better. You're going to be stagnant in your growth, and you'll probably get frustrated and quit the hobby. So remember the 3 P's. That's patience, preparation, and practice. So that brings me to the question, have you ever made one of these mistakes before? If so, drop a comment. You know, we've all been there. There's not a one of us that's immune from any of these mistakes. So feel free to drop a comment. If you've liked what you've seen in this and other videos, don't forget to give a thumbs up, like and subscribe. Don't forget the Facebook group. We have a group on Facebook if you're new. It's called the Frugal Scale Modeler. I always leave a link to that in the video description. Just go to the home page of the group, answer 3 membership questions, and agree to the membership rules. And once I look them over, I'll send you a message that says you're free to post and to enjoy all the perks of membership. That's what I was getting ready to say. And also, don't forget about the gallery discount. If you go on Gallery, Gallery has all your airbrushing needs, from paints to varnishes to cleaners, thinners, airbrushes themselves, airbrush stands, spray booths, and every accessory for your airbrush if something breaks, like your needle or your nozzle. They have all that. So check out the gallery website. I'll leave a link to that in the description. And every time you buy something on the gallery website, you check out, use the code MWMike, all capital letters, all one word, MWMike. Put that code in at checkout and you'll save 10% every time. I also want to remind you all, if you haven't entered, right now our holiday group build's going on. You can build anything you want. Just send me a email with a picture of the box of the model you're building. Have your model completed and a picture of your completed models emailed to me by December 15th. And if you need a full list of the rules, I have a post on that on the post section of the channel. And also my email address is in the channel description. So don't forget about the group build. Next video, it depends on when I have some gallery markers coming in the mail. If they come in on time, which they probably won't, it'll be a review of the gallery markers. But if not, our next video, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to take topics that we have covered on the live stream. I'm going to do video on it. And I'm going to see how that works. And the first topic that I'm going to do on that for the next video will be accuracy and scale modeling. So that should be an interesting one. So that's all I got for this one. Y'all know what we always say around here: never stop pushing your modeling boundaries. And until next time, later folks.